Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I'll post it up to Facebook. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. I would like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They are an international therapy company. So if you are outside the United States, inside the United States, you don't like your therapist or you can't get into a therapist, go to BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez, BetterHelp with a P, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez, and they will set you up with a PhD level or a master's level licensed therapist in your state or just in the USA. So there it is. And apparently, good news, the ACA is doing a bunch of compacts now, so they're going to start opening up being able to go across state lines. Finally, welcome to the 21st century. Don't get me started. So anyway, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. I'll put it down in the description. Okay, let's hit some of the questions that I got this week. I walked away from my husband's narcissistic family 3 years ago. He still visits them and calls them. I can see them manipulating him. It feels like they are doing this to get to me too because he jumps at their call. So here's the deal. When there is a narcissistic in-law going on, the spouse is going to be dealing with all of the same things that children of narcissists deal with, right? So it's super important to get with a good trauma therapist for couples counseling. If he's willing to go, get him into couples counseling and express what's going on and why you've gone no contact with them and that you are concerned that he's being manipulated by them. So this is common. This is really super common. And sometimes what the compromise is that yes, the spouse will go see them or visit them, but then they have to do some sort of reassurance to the spouse that's gone no contact that they're not going to be manipulated by the family of origin. So that's why I'm saying get with a good trauma therapist for couples counseling. Now, if they're unwilling to go to couples counseling, then Houston, you got a bigger problem. So generally, there may be a little resistance because they don't want to rat on the parent, because they know that's what's going to happen. They're going to tell the therapist what's going on. The therapist is going to be like, what are you doing? So, and there's that loyalty, remember? So they've got that really skewed sense of loyalty that the abuser instills in the child, now the adult child. So this is why getting with a good trauma therapist to help the spouse separate, be able to stay loyal to the marriage and deal with the crazy family. And do you see where I'm going with that? So yeah, a good trauma therapist and couples counseling. And if the spouse will not do that, if they're like, we don't need therapy, I won't go, there's nothing wrong, blah, 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 you're the problem, you've got a bigger issue. You've got a bigger issue because they're siding with the abuser and they're not protecting you or the marriage. So yeah, so that's what I would say with that. Okay. Why do I have no memory of my abusive childhood? I know I was abused, but I cannot remember most of my childhood. Okay, so dissociation. So when a child is abused, there's only so much a kid can deal with cognitively. So the levels of development, a 3-year-old is not going to be able to cope with abuse the same way a teenager can cope with abuse because a teenager's got a little bit more cognitively going on. So a little one is going to dissociate. That's normal. That's what little ones do when they get abused. So it's called abuse amnesia or it's dissociation. And so something has happened, you were abused, you don't remember the specifics of it. You don't need to. It's enough to know that there was something dysfunctional, crazy going on in your life as a little one. So it's common. It's dissociation. So when a child, especially with sexual abuse, is being abused, they literally check out and they literally go float out of their body and watch the abuse happen from the corner of the room because that's the safe thing to do. So dissociation protects us in a way when we're little from the horrors of the abuse, but then it harms us in a way as we get older and we're trying to work through the abuse and we're trying to figure out what happened, where did this go wrong, what's going on here. So don't freak out that you can't remember. That is a common feature of PTSD. CPTSD. So one of the common features is not being able to remember events surrounding the trauma. And we do tend to dissociate, absolutely, because it's too much. It's too much. Our brains just kind of go, bloop, can't cope, peace out, see ya, and we don't remember. So when somebody sits down on my couch and says, I don't remember a lot of my childhood, that's my clue. Okay, what happened? Oh, my childhood was perfect. I had a perfect childhood. Okay, well, normally when people have a perfect childhood, they remember their childhood. I mean, at least, snapshots thereof, if not the whole thing. And so, of course, eventually when they start feeling safer, they start having memories, they start, allowing themselves to process, they start talking about the abusive relationships they're in as an adult and start connecting it back to the family of origin, then they start flowing. So it's not uncommon for abused children to become adults that don't have any memory of their childhood. It's normal to remember your childhood. It is. Usually you ask people, what were you doing when you were 6, and you can kind of piece it together and remember that. But with somebody who was being abused when they were 6, they probably wouldn't remember it. So abuse amnesia for the victim or for the target of abuse is because of dissociation, because we're just like, I can't cope, peace out, not going to remember, it's too much, can't deal with it. Abuse amnesia for an abuser is gaslighting. So they're the ones that go, oh, that never happened. Oh, I never abused you. That's gaslighting. So that's 2 different forms of abuse amnesia. So abuse amnesia happens to us as targets of abuse because it's too much and we can't cope. So my suggestion would be get with a damn good trauma therapist, look into EMDR, look into EFT, start working the books that I recommend, the Self-esteem workbook by Glenn Schiraldi, The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker, the Inner Child workbook by Catherine Taylor. You may not ever remember it. Or as you become more confident in yourself and trusting your gut, you may start having memories. And that's when EMDR is really useful. Or EFT, either one of those, it would be really good for when the memories do start happening. So this is common, guys. You're not weird, you're not anything. This just is part and parcel of abuse, and it's part of PTSD. This is what happens to us. We don't remember key aspects around the trauma. We may forget entire chunks of our childhood if it was consistently, constant, complex PTSD, So there that is. All right, let's get to the next question. Can you talk more about triggers? I smelled a soap smell that reminded me of my abuser and I had a total panic attack. Can smells cause a panic attack or be a trigger? Yes, abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, absolutely. So triggers are anything that remind us of the abuse. So it can be seeing something, it can be hearing something, it can be smelling something, it can be tasting something, it can be feeling something, it can be, anything, really. Anything can be a trigger. So any of the senses, sight, sound, touch, smell, any of those can be a trigger for past trauma. So yes, smelling a soap smell, especially, if they were around you and it was a sexual assault, that's common. That is so common. I had a client years ago that could not stand the smell of Irish Spring because her rapist used Irish Spring, and that's the only smell she could smell as the attack was happening. So anytime she smelled Irish Spring, panic attack. So basically, it's in that case, you avoid it, like you totally avoid it, and you let your family and friends that you trust know, and please don't use this soap. It's triggering. Please don't do it. It just, no thank you. That kind of thing. You got to let people know, because otherwise they're not, you wouldn't think of that. Somebody who's not been through trauma would not understand that a smell can absolutely bring flashbacks, absolutely take you right back to that moment when you were being abused. Yeah. So anything can be a trigger. Anything can be a trigger. Anything that reminds us of the traumatic event. Anything, a memory, a thought, a sound, a smell, seeing something, hearing something, tasting something, any of those can bring back the emotional flashbacks. So that's common. That's actually common. And once you identify, and this is why it's important to identify triggers. So when I talk about identifying triggers, this is part of it. Hang on a second. So this is part of it, because you want to be able to know what sets you off into those emotional flashbacks, what, causes you to have a panic attack, and to be able to let people around you know so that they don't use that soap, use that perfume, use that cologne, whatever, so that you're not constantly getting triggered. So yeah, absolutely. And that is part of identifying your trigger. So when you have a panic attack and you can't quite figure out what precipitated it, it may or may not be a thought. It may be a smell. It may be something you saw, maybe something you felt, maybe something you heard, so try to figure out what was going on right before the panic attack. Usually it's something has triggered the panic attack. So try to figure out what that was. And then once you've identified it, now you can either avoid it, or you can let people know, please don't wear that. It's triggering. No, thank you. That kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely. So yes, smells can absolutely be a trigger. Absolutely. Mirror work is working. Yay! I don't understand how, but it is. Can you talk more about why it works? Okay, so when we're a little kid, we're constantly told stuff. And if we've got an abuser who's constantly telling us stuff, that becomes our internal critic, okay? How we are spoken to as a child becomes either our internal cheerleader, go you, you're fabulous, good job, keep going, or it becomes our internal critic. Oh, you're not good enough. Why are you doing that? You're so stupid. Blah, 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 blah. What if, that whole thing. So repetition is what becomes our internal dialogue. So as a kid, we didn't have a choice. If we had parents that were abusive and constantly telling us that we were not good enough or stupid or, any other of the various, oh my God, names that they would hurl at us, our inner child would latch onto that and believe it, because kids believe what their parents tell them because they don't have anything to compare it to, really, until you're an adult and you can look around and go, yeah, that's not normal. So the mirror work works because we are literally reparenting our inner child. We are literally reparenting ourselves. So just like how little kids absorb, like sponges, everything that's thrown at them, really, our inner child has done that. And so now we have to repair the damage that our bio parents did to us, or our parental units, whoever they are, did to us. And we have to fix it, and we have to replace it with the healthy. So the mirror work works because we're working on the inner child. And we're repetition. So it's just like if you tell a child they're stupid often enough, eventually the kid starts acting, quote unquote, stupid. And there's been study after study after study after study after study. Oh, Lord. After study about that, I really need glasses. I need different contacts. Holy cow. About how repetition causes a child to start believing it. If a lie is repeated often enough, if the person does not have a good sense of self and a good sense of right and wrong and a good sense of morality, that lie then becomes the truth. So it's really important to start working on that inner child. And so the lie was, we're stupid, we're bad, we're wrong, we're not enough, we're, this, that, and the other thing, and what if, and we need to worry, and blah, 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 blah. Those were all lies. So you start working on you with self-esteem. Hi, good to see you, because it is good to see you. It's good for you to say, it's good to see you. It feels good. Good to see you. Have a great day. What are you doing? You are programming your subconscious to have a good day. Because our subconscious is back here listening to this ticker tape of everything that we're saying to ourselves. So if we're saying good stuff, that's great. If we're saying negative, awful, horrible, terrible things, that's not so good, because then the subconscious sets about to make it happen. So for example, if you tell yourself often enough that you are ugly, you will look in the mirror and you will see ugly, and it's not true. How many times have abusers done that to their kids? Beautiful child, male or female, doesn't matter. And the abuser will sit there and go, oh, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly. And pretty soon the kid is going, oh, I don't want to look in the mirror, I'm ugly. So here's the thing, guys. When I tell people to do mirror work and they don't like it, they're like, oh, I don't like looking in the mirror. I'm like, do you not like looking in the mirror because you don't like what you see? Or is it that you don't like what you hear? 9 times out of 10, they don't like what they hear, because what they're hearing is the abuse from the parent about who they are. So you look in the mirror and you always say kind things. Always. Do not get stuck or trapped into that abusive, oh, this is it, and oh, this wrinkle, and oh my gosh, and oh, this gray hair. No. You look in the mirror and you go, damn, I like you. Damn, I like you. Good job. Keep going. I'm proud of you. It's good to see you. Have a great day. I give you permission to enjoy yourself, which is what a good parent would do. Good parents mirror back to the kids the love. I love you. You're great. I think you're awesome. You made a mistake. Okay, let me show you how to fix it. Okay, good. You fixed it. Make amends. Okay, great. Move on. Forgive yourself and move on. Abusive parents never do that. That's always harsh, mean, horrible, terrible, awful. Or with the golden children, what they do is they overly praise them. They're turning them into little narcissists, expecting to always be praised and always be told how great they are. That's not reality either. So, but with us, what we have to do is we have to undo all of that negative nasty that got shoved into our space, overly shoved into our space. And usually the abuser attacks the child in the family that sees. The one that sees the pink elephant taking the doo-doo in the corner of the living room. So this is why kids who are empathic or kids who see the dysfunction are the ones that get just bagged on horrifically by the abuser, because the abuser doesn't like the fact that they see. And so they start gaslighting them. They start lying to them, and they start pulling that, sense of security out from underneath them, and they take that sense of self away from them. They don't want them to have a sense of self. They don't want them to be bulletproof. They want to manipulate and control them. So mirror work works because we're working on that daily reprogramming all of that nastiness into healthy, helping thoughts. So this is where mindfulness comes into. You've got to be able to call out your own abusive thoughts that you got from your abuser that you now think are you and they're not. They're your abuser. Put it back on the abuser. Pete Walker, CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving, Chapter 3. Put it back on the abuser, and replace it with good thoughts. Hi, good to see you. I love you. You're a good person. Have a great day. I give you permission to be happy. Because we don't have permission to be happy from them. How many of us feel guilty for doing better than they did? How much of a competition is the narcissist in with their own children, with their spouse, with their siblings, with their everybody? Because it's a competition all the time. How dare you? How dare you do better than me? Well, it's okay for you to do better than your narcissist. It's okay for you to do better than your abuser. It's okay. Give yourself permission. It's okay for me to do well. That kind of thing. So mirror work works because we're repetition. We're constantly telling ourselves, hey, I like you. Hey, it's okay. Hey, I give you permission. It's okay. And so we start believing that, which is great, which is why how you say it is generally how it turns out. If you're constantly a negative Nelly, oh, this is going to be horrible, and oh, this is going to be awful, your subconscious is going to pick up on that and go, okay, kids, they want it to be horrible and awful. Let's make it horrible and awful. How are you speaking to yourself? What do you say to yourself about life events? Really important to keep track of that and to put down the thoughts that are not yours and replace them with positive, and to not allow the abuser to live rent-free in your head. So this is why mirror work works, is because we're working on the subconscious and we're working on repetition. You are doing all of the positive reaffirmations, affirmations, reinforcement that a healthy parent should have done when you were little. So now you're talking to yourself directly and you're having to reparent yourself, and you're working on the subconscious. And that's why it works. And eventually it's going to become second nature. So yes, I still do the mirror work daily. Every time I catch my reflection anywhere, I do the mirror work. I say something positive to myself, because if I didn't, I would start backsliding. It's because that programming that we got when we were little kids is super strong. So you got to keep on it, and you got to make sure that you're always up on it, and you're always reframing things into a healthy way of thinking. So instead of catastrophizing, yes, this particular thing sucks. Okay, what can I do about it? Instead of, oh my God, this is the horrible, terrible, awful, worst, oh, blah, 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 whatever is going on. So you've got to start working on not catastrophizing, accepting what is, and reframing it. Okay, what can I do now? What's the next right step? Instead of making it a disaster that ruins your day. You don't want to do that. So there that is. I hope that answered the question. Okay. I feel guilty saying nice things to myself, or I fear that I'm a narcissist. What is the difference between self-esteem and narcissism? I get that question a lot. Okay, so self-esteem is just that quiet little voice inside your head that says, hey, I like you. Good job. Keep going. It's you talking to you and knowing your own worth and not allowing anybody to treat you poorly. That's self-esteem and good boundaries. Narcissists scream to the world, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great. You know, they need to be fluffed up. They do, because they cannot fluff themselves up. So it's like, you know, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great, tell me I'm great. Other esteem. They need other esteem. They constantly need approval. They constantly need reinforcement from other people. They're not ever able to just sit there and go, this is good. Yeah, this is good. And be okay with it. So self-esteem is just that quiet voice, you telling you that you're okay and you like you. Good job, keep going, you know. Narcissism seeks other esteem and must put down everybody around them in order for them to feel superior. They need narcissistic supply. So if you're not doing that, you're not a narcissist. So self-esteem is that. Now, the other thing I hear is, oh my God, I'm not humble if I'm telling myself good things. Where the heck did you learn that? Seriously, where the heck did you learn that? So look at your family of origin. Who told you it was not okay to acknowledge yourself for the things that you've done? Now, in my family, it was my narcissistic grandmother, Bertha. Her name fit her perfectly. She was just, not a nice person at all. So yeah, and she would tell us that we were narcissists, you know, or, you know, that we were full of ourselves. I don't think narcissist was a word back then. I mean, it was a word, but it wasn't, you know. So she would say, oh, you're full of yourself. You're so arrogant. And I'm sitting here looking at her, and she literally project. So they will project onto the kid their stuff, telling them, how dare you like yourself, because they don't like themselves, and they get jealous when a child is able to be happy, because they can never be happy. Happy is not in their wheelhouse. You know, it just doesn't, they can't be happy. So they get angry when somebody is happy around them. And so they try to make the kid wrong for acknowledging themselves, for doing well, for being able to go, yeah, I did this. Having a little self-pride, you know, oh yeah, that infuriates them like nobody's business. So you want to look back to who taught you that? Who told you it was not okay to acknowledge yourself, to validate yourself, to, you know, say nice things to you? Who projected onto you that you were arrogant if you did that? I can guarantee you it was probably a narcissist. So take a look at family of origin. Okay, hang on. Let me get to the next question. How are we doing on time? Got a few minutes. Okay. In my abuse support group, almost all of us have some sort of autoimmune issue or health issue. Is that because of the abuse and the stress? Yes, absolutely. So when we are abused, we then have post-traumatic stress disorder. If the abuse was continual, it's complex because it was going on daily in different forms, but it was happening. So complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So when a child is abused, they're a nervous wreck. Oh yeah. Oh, anxiety through the roof. Depression through the roof. I mean, it's horrible. So the child will have all of these emotional things going on. The family is clueless. You know, they're unwilling to get help for the kid. They're unwilling to send the kid to therapy, protect the child from the abuser because they're all enabling the abuser. You know, so there's all these things going on. So when we are going through extreme levels of emotional distress, whether it's depression or anxiety, our bodies are just at survival. And if it's anxiety, then our adrenal gland is pumping like nobody's business because we're on high alert, hypervigilance. How do I stay one step ahead of them? How do I stay out of trouble? How do I not get beaten? How do I not get yelled at? You know, and you're constantly looking for danger because it is dangerous, right? Unfortunately, when we get out of that situation and we're no longer in danger, we still have the hypervigilance going on. And our adrenal gland is so used to like pumping things out, we get adrenal fatigue. So autoimmune diseases are common in survivors of abuse. So are health issues, cancer, all sorts of stuff, because our poor bodies have been through the ringer. So it's really important to get with a good doc or a good Eastern medicine doc, naturopath, whatever. Start healing the organs. Meditation is great. Acknowledging, yes, I have been at survival for X number of years and my adrenal glands are giving me the middle finger. Do you see where I'm going with that? So yeah, we have been at survival. Our organs are just like, eventually they're just like keeling over because we're overusing them. So yeah, there are a lot of autoimmune issues among survivors of abuse. There are a lot of health issues among survivors of abuse. And I think it's because our bodies are running at this, insane level for so many years, and we just can't maintain it. And eventually the body just kind of gives you the middle finger and goes, stop. So you can heal it, though. I do believe through, working through the trauma, meditation, eating healthy, exercise, getting good night's sleep, journaling, etc. It can start reversing it, and it can start helping the person to not be running at this level all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. And I'm not surprised because we've been around toxic for so long. So there it is. Yep, you're not wrong. Okay, let's see. And it is about the stress, yeah. When I get triggered, I want to eat everything in sight. How do I change this? Okay. So we're looking for comfort. So this is where the self-esteem workbook comes in, and this is also where the inner child workbook would come in. How old were you when you realized food was a comfort and you started turning to the food to help yourself feel better? So then it's a matter of, okay, I'm stressed out. What can I do instead that is also comforting? So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll work with clients about, okay, so like, and I used to do this when I was a kid. I used to twirl my hair, and my whole head would be just filled with knots because I would just sit there and twirl my hair all night long, because it was a comfort thing. Hair feels soft. So, okay, give your client or give yourself something soft to touch instead, or get a worry stone to keep your hands busy, or get the prayer beads, the Buddhist prayer beads, or the rosary, or, anything to keep your hands busy. The other thing that I see a lot of clients doing is chewing the nails. And that's an anxiety response, because really you want to be yelling at these people and you can't. So you're having to literally bite back your anger, bite back your sadness, bite back your fear, because emotions are not allowed by abusers. So it's important to find a substitute for whatever it is that you're doing that's harming you. So for eating, it's going to be, what else can I do that's comforting instead of putting something in my mouth? Or if you're going to put something in your mouth, get gum. Get gum. I loved, when I was quitting smoking, I used the 5 gum, the really strong tasting gum, or the clove gum. Excuse me. Because it was very strong tasting. So it was kind of a comfort, and it also gave me something that, I could really chew on, literally. So, but if it's because you're twirling your hair, or if you're chewing your nails, find a different way to comfort yourself. If it's food, find something else that will comfort you that's not food. Exercise is great. Getting your anger out, exercising, great. Seriously, working out on a punching bag, wonderful. Doing aerobics, really helpful. So, but if you can't do that, like let's say you're at work and the boss is a total jerk and you're just like, give me the cookies that are on the desk, then you're going to have to find a way to comfort yourself that does not involve food. Go for a walk. Do some self-reaffirming talk as you're on the walk. It's like, yes, I am angry at this person. Yes, I am stressed out at this person. I do not need to shove food in my mouth. What I do need to do is acknowledge that I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm anxious, whatever is going on. You want to acknowledge the feelings. I think the reason we do that is because it never was safe for us to acknowledge whatever feelings were happening. So we would stuff them down with food, or we would bite them back by chewing on our nails. So find a substitute that's not harmful to you that is comforting that you can do when you are feeling stressed. How are we doing on time? Okay. I gotta go. All right, kids, have a great week. So this week we're going to talk about what is normal. What is this normal you speak of? So we're going to talk about healthy ways of being, healthy ways of doing the holidays, healthy ways of communicating, how to stay out of messes, when not to engage, all that sort of fun stuff. Boundaries, healthy boundaries. So that's what we're going to talk about. What is normal? What is normal? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about relationships, communication, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, my loves, have a wonderful week. Take good care of yourselves. I want to thank my sponsor again, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez, for just being awesome. So thanks, you guys. I will talk to you on Sunday. Bye.